McGraw-Hill Ascent Audio presents Walk Away to Win, a Playbook to Combat Workplace Bullying by Carle. Narrated by Sheri Saginor. Publisher's note: this audiobook contains references to material present in the print and ebook editions of the book. Let me pray. The Workplace Bullies Manifesto. You've never heard anything like this because I've never written anything like this. I operate quietly, on a no-need-to-know basis. Silence is my ally, you know. Leave no trace. I'm the backpacker of belittling. The Navy SEAL of making people in the office feel inferior. Get in, get out, get the job done under the cover of darkness. The darkness of gender, of power, of the way it's always been. The darkness of numbers, which always favors me. The darkness of don't tell or you will be seen as weak. The darkness of, if you do tell, nobody will believe you, in part because the higher up you'll seek justice from is, surprise, me. A regular-looking, dressing, talking hipster who controls the narrative. I'm like plain M&Ms left in the sun, tough on the outside, a chocolate mess of insecurity on the inside. Deep down, I know I'm in over my head. I know I got this far not because of what I know, but who I know. Who I tee it up, guest suite it up, and strip club it up with. I know you're smarter, more imaginative, and more courageous than me. And deep down, that's what fuels my quiet rage. I know I'm a lie, and you're the truth. So, in my desperation, I create chaos to hide my ineffectiveness. I start the fire, report it to the authorities, and show up on Twitter with a headline that says, "Look at me, I saved the forest." I talk teamwork, but prefer a 3-on-1 fast break, with you as the one. When it comes to targets, I'm an equal opportunity bully. Fast, slow, big, small, women, men, they, and them. I exploit you all. Power and fear are my oxygen. Black, brown, white, and all shades in between. I make you feel small. So small, you disappear. Heck, I can't even be bothered to get your name or your pronoun right. From Fortune 500 companies to 6-person startups. Makes no difference to me because the bottom line is me. Seeing you succeed amplifies my feelings of failure. Seeing you happy reminds me of my own misery. So I blow up whatever bridges I can see you're about to cross. I believe in the magic of demeaning, devaluing, and dehumanizing. I believe in screaming, a smack on the ass, and a creepy whisper. I believe in scare tactics, paralyzing humiliation, and shock value. I believe in manipulation, exploitation, and Machiavelli. In short, I believe empathy and vulnerability are for losers. I jerk you around. I yank your chain. I reschedule the meeting. Over and over. I care more about the order of your PowerPoint slides than the message you're delivering. I get others to talk behind your back, so you'll start to feel the target on your back. Deceit is my face paint. I believe bullying is a professional sport. I believe bullying is therapy. I believe bullying is a noble means to a me end. I believe your pain is my gain. I believe in threatening and re-threatening, but always under the cover of darkness. Remember? Leave no trace. I believe in the hunt. I am a workplace bully. So bow your head and let me pray. Author's Note. In October 2016, I bid farewell to Nike with a one-on-one goodbye to co-founder Phil Knight, at which I thanked him profusely and tiptoed around the real reason I was leaving. 18 months later, a former colleague invited me to lunch. The invitation came soon after the New York Times had published its bombshell front-page story headlined, "At Nike, Revolt led by women leads to exodus of male executives." At least 6 men, several of whom had been involved in the mishandling of my situation, had been removed from the company or were said to be leaving. Said the Times, "Women were made to feel marginalized in meetings and were passed over for promotions. They were largely excluded from crucial divisions like basketball. When they complained to Human Resources, they said, they saw little or no evidence that bad behavior was being penalized." Finally, fed up, a group of women inside Nike's Beaverton, Oregon headquarters started a small revolt. Covertly, they surveyed their female peers, inquiring whether they had been the victim of sexual harassment and gender discrimination. Their findings set off an upheaval in the executive ranks of the world's largest sports footwear and apparel company. See Julie Cresswell, Kevin Draper, and Rachel Abrams. At Nike, Revolt led by women leads to exodus of male executives. New York Times, April 28, 2018. The lunch was at Nike's sprawling world headquarters 20 minutes from where I lived. As we took our seats at one of the many cafes on the plush campus, my friend apologized for hosting me there, concerned for my comfort level. I told her I wouldn't have agreed to the location if I wasn't okay with it. "What happened here?" I asked gingerly over salmon salads in the Deschutes Cafe. "Well, Meigs, you left," she said, "and we knew that it wasn't to go take care of your kids." My salad was suddenly lodged in my throat. "You know the dissident female group that you've read about in the paper?" she said. "That's me." Jesus, I thought, I'm sitting across from Deep Throat. I raised my eyebrows at her, having had no idea she was part of the group that developed a survey, fed it to dozens of female colleagues, and took the findings, rampant sexual harassment, sexism, and bullying, to Nike's CEO. "Megan, your leaving had a ripple effect on the organization, and then a bunch of other women left, and those of us who remained sort of looked at each other and said, 'What the fuck do we do now?' So we took matters into our own hands, crafted our own simple questionnaire, and the result is what you're reading about in the paper." I looked at her, stunned, but seen. "I want to thank you for inviting me here and telling me your story," I said. "Most of all, I want to thank you for what you did. You showed such courage." "Meigs, it didn't feel courageous at the time, just necessary. I wanted you to know that your leaving was not in vain. We did not forget you. We organized, in part, because of you. So I invited you here today to thank you. You were the match that lit the fuse that blew up the toxic executive leadership here." That may have been an overstatement or oversimplification, but for someone who'd been made to feel so small and insignificant in the final days of a nearly 30-year career at a place I had loved and given my all to, The words were salve to my wound. Perhaps I would finally be able to find meaning in all of it. The workplace bullying I experienced, the betrayal of the company I'd served with undying allegiance, the executives I thought I could trust who turned their backs when I asked for help. By the time I'd said goodbye to Nike, the key people I reported to didn't see me at all. And frankly, I no longer saw myself. When I looked in the mirror, it was blank. Nothing. Invisible. What happened? Who am I? Where am I? And what can I be? Over the subsequent months, I wrote this book to be a catalyst for a conversation. I want targets of bullying, leaders, HR professionals, allies, and even workplace bullies themselves to gain not only a new understanding of bullying in the workplace, but also, and perhaps more important, an appreciation for the ingredients that make up a healthy workplace culture. There may be stories in this book that sound familiar to you because you are going through something similar. While all the stories in this book are based on true events, some of the stories are composites of experiences. And to protect people's identities, some company and individual names have been changed. Additionally, in describing my own experience as a Nike employee, I did not intend, nor should it be construed, to disparage, defame, and/or malign Nike's products or services. To the contrary, I always took great pride in knowing that I was part of a team that produced world-class products and provided first-class services. I continue to believe Nike's products and services are some of the best in the market. My observations are limited to what can happen to workplace culture when it becomes unhealthy. Finally, to the extent there is dialogue in this book, no conversations were recorded. My experiences and conversations left an indelible impression on me, and in sharing my memory of them, I am confident they will be of help to you as well. I hope that my story and the story of others shared with me through interviews provide you with guidance, whether you are being bullied, witnessing others being bullied, or leading an organization in which workplace culture and, specifically, workplace bullying are seen as important subjects to discuss. This book is only the beginning of an ever-evolving conversation about how we can do better and, ultimately, be better. Music is such an important part of our lives. It has the power to help us process powerful feelings. For me, before I had written one word, I made a Walk Away to Win playlist. I thought of it as my own pre-game hype music, I guess. But more than that, I knew if I could feel what I had experienced through music, I might have a shot at healing. If you too need motivation, permission, or an invitation to work through what we collectively have experienced or are experiencing in the workplace, go ahead and press play. Go to open.spotify.com/playlist/WATW. Prologue. The meeting in Paris was to begin in 5 minutes. As Nike's new vice president/general manager in charge of basketball for North America, I was about to be introduced by my new boss to my new global teammates. I was like an athlete pumped up for a game, less nervous than focused. With this role, anything and everything having to do with basketball in North America, Nike Basketball's largest revenue generator, would be the responsibility of my team and me. Sales, merchandising, retail, brand, operations. The whole enchilada. I was in my element. Basketball was in my DNA. As a coach's kid, I ate, drank, and slept basketball growing up, so this felt like coming home. The global basketball team had tied this gathering to an event called K54, a world streetball tournament held at the Trocadero in Paris, with the Eiffel Tower looming overhead. More than 20,000 fans screamed, clapped, and cheered on as a salad bowl of talent. 10 nations competed in 5-on-5 basketball games under the banner that read, "Bring your game, not your name." Special guests Scottie Pippen and Carmelo Anthony judged the slam dunk contest, and hip-hop artist French Montana closed out the evening. I was in heaven as I watched what the players and the fans, consumers, were wearing, reacting to, and experiencing. Afterward, I and the other executives convened to a conference room in our nearby hotel for our corporate strategic review sessions. No meeting was more important than the first one. My new boss, whose previous position I was filling, had become global vice president of basketball. He welcomed everyone. I breathed in deeply, ready for him to introduce me to the team I'd be joining. Only he didn't. Bosses and ballers. There's God, there's Phil Knight, and rounding out the trifecta, there's Bruce Springsteen, whom I'd never refer to as the boss. That title belongs to Mr. Knight. Never Phil, but Mr. Knight, out of respect. I mention Mr. Knight at the outset because I am deeply grateful for his trailblazing spirit that led to the founding of the company that saved my life, for his drive that wouldn't let him quit even when the company in its early years was struggling to survive, and for my getting to be a part of it all. All in all, I spent nearly 30 years as a Nike executive, ascending to leadership positions in Europe and North America no woman had held before. Mr. Knight had provided the opportunity, and my family had provided the toughness I'd needed not only to survive in a male-dominated company, but to thrive, to lead. Growing up in a household full of boys, led by a strong, principled male and a steady, loving female, I had learned how to hang with the boys and not complain. I also had always been expected to have a voice at the table and elsewhere. As a tomboy, that included rough and tumble basketball games in our driveway, the will to fight through the toughest screen, and the confidence to stand up for myself. My stepfather, Dave Robertson, was a high school basketball coach, among the state of Washington's best, and I was raised in the game. Basketball wasn't just something we played. Basketball was our life. It was who we were. As for who I would become, it was my mom who taught me that no dream was too big, a written inspiration to me from one of our favorite books, The Little Prince. You alone will have stars as no one else has them. For most of my Nike career, that toughness and tenacity served me well. And yet, over the course of my last several years as one of the top executives at Nike, I was the target of workplace bullying. I eventually decided to leave the company because of the emotional and physical effects inflicted by bullying behaviors. In Paris, I was ready to contribute. I was ready to implement my team-first approach to this part of the business. This role was everything to me. I was being recognized. All the work I'd put into the company, including my previous role as the vice president/general manager of the Western European running division, was being acknowledged. My philosophy of head down, bust your butt, and the work will speak for itself had paid off. So yes, I was feeling grateful, as if I had arrived. My new boss stood up. He greeted my colleagues from around the world. The moment had come for him to introduce me. But he moved on without even saying my name. No name, no nod, no nothing. Because I'd been at Nike for more than a quarter of a century, I knew many of the people in the room, but it still bothered me. Strange way to start a relationship. I would never not introduce the new person, whether the setting was in a meeting room, around a conference table, or at any other gathering. Introductions are important. I learned this early on when my dad taught me that offering a firm handshake, making eye contact, and clearly stating one's name can be the most important ingredients of any business meeting. Introductions connect us to each other. They imply an endorsement of sorts. In this case, an introduction would have said, "I respect and trust this person. I'm confident you will too." On the other hand, it seemed like a minor thing, right? A lot was going on. We were in a foreign city, and we were processing a variety of new information. In short, there were a lot of moving parts. So I told myself, don't overthink the oversight, just move on. Perhaps my new boss was taking the "bring your game, not your name" theme literally. In the years since, I've learned a great deal about workplace bullying, like the fact that not introducing a new team member may be a red flag to a subtle bullying tactic that is often misdiagnosed as a lack of manners. I've talked to many of the few experts on the topic. I've read, watched, and listened to deep analysis of the subject. I've also met and spoken to countless targets of bullying from multiple companies at various levels and positions. These people were strong, successful, powerful, creative, and great at their jobs, but nonetheless were targeted by workplace bullies. Through my work, these employees have sought me out to tell their stories, hoping to learn how to stop the bullying and how to process the trauma they've suffered. I've come to understand what to do about workplace bullying. I've learned its causes, the devastating consequences for both targets and organizations, and, most important, the most effective responses and courses of action for targets, allies, and leaders. This book is about workplace bullying, as seen through the eyes of myriad targets. It is divided into these parts. Part 1 is devoted to recognizing workplace bullying. Think of it as the fundamentals of workplace bullying. Part 2 is dedicated to understanding the cultural context in which workplace bullying thrives, the big picture that will help you better understand bullying. Part 3 is an opportunity to study different scenarios of workplace bullying using a game film approach. Part 4 focuses on identifying bullying in the wild through real-life workplace bullying examples, the different ways bullying shows up. Part 5 will help targets in navigating and moving on from workplace bullying, whether that means staying in your role or walking away. An appendix at the end of the book provides a comprehensive playbook for targets as a quick reference. Think of this book as the what, the why, the where, the when, and the how of workplace bullying so it doesn't ruin you, a colleague, a comrade, or a company. If you too are a target, my story, along with those of others, will help you understand what is happening to you and what you can do about it. It will give you the words and language to use rather than suffer in silence. When you are the target of workplace bullying, you begin to doubt yourself. You start to question your own values and eventually your own sanity. The emotional, physical, and professional consequences are real and can be severe. This book will help you realize that you are not alone. It will help you process what has happened and then take action to end the bullying and to recover. If you have witnessed workplace bullying, This book will help you understand the significance of what you've experienced and how to be an effective ally. If you are a leader at any level of a company or organization, this book will help you grasp the ways that bullying happens, the toll it takes on your people and your bottom line, and the actions you should take. Finally, if you are the bully, this book will help you understand why what you're doing is detrimental not only to the target and to the company, but to you. In other words, the life you save may be your own. Meanwhile, bravo for having the courage to listen to this. When I left Nike, I thought that workplace bullying was something that had happened just to me. Since then, I've come to understand that workplace bullying happens frequently, that it happens in certain kinds of workplace cultures, and that there are specific strategies and tactics that targets, allies, and leaders can and should use. It's my fervent hope that this book will help in that effort, and that together we can put an end to workplace bullying. That night in Paris, as I stared out my hotel window at the Eiffel Tower, it was as if my world had shifted. As if, on this workplace river rafting trip, the challenge wasn't the water-in-your-face rapids that were all part of the journey for the whole team. Instead, it was as if, downriver, I could hear the pounding of a waterfall. Try as I might not to, at times I would end up flailing over that waterfall. It would mean questioning my values and doubting myself, not just as an employee, but as a human being on the edge of madness. Some might say over the edge. And at my lowest point, putting my family at risk. And yet, it would be my family that would see me through. Part 1. Recognize. The fundamentals of workplace bullying. When you're raised by a coach, winning puts food on your table. Winning was the air my brothers and I breathed, the fifth food group. It was winning through effort, hard work, and perseverance. It wasn't winning in a cage match, sweep-the-knee way. No, we played fair while we beat each other's brains out. And when obstacles appeared, as they did, we worked through them. Like a pick set in basketball, you adjust and fight your way around it. I still remember the high school basketball game when an opposing player set a pick on me. As I fought around her screen, she shot her knee out directly into my unsuspecting, unprepared quad. It dropped me. Coach called a timeout. We wrapped up my leg, and although I was struggling, I got back in and played. At Nike, a muscling through, working hard, all-out effort approach boded well for me for a long time. I rose in the ranks, I played, and I won. And then I ran into a pick I couldn't work around. No matter how I adjusted, the knee to the quad got me every time. That's what workplace bullying feels like. It drops you. While behaving like a bully is unthinkable to most people, it's fair to say that bullying is far more common than is generally acknowledged. That's one of the reasons I wrote this book. In Part 1, we'll discuss what bullying looks like, how bullies behave, and how to distinguish between bullying and bad behavior. From there, we'll introduce the pros and cons of a number of response options. Ignore, resist, comply, and enlist. Through information and practice, not only will we gain a better understanding of the bullies in our lives, but we will regain control over our own experience. Let's find our way around the pick. 1. From the playground to the boardroom. Bullies are scared people hiding inside.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?